Good morning, everyone. We are going to be looking at John 2:13 through 25 today on the pod. As you can tell, I look a little sleepy and a little disheveled if you're watching the video format. I am in the cabin in the woods. I am on a vacation, and I don't actually consider the podcast work because I do it for fun, not for money. So, it is the day after Easter, and we are looking at John 2:13 through 25. I hope everybody had a great Easter. I hope everybody else is having as slow of a roll as I am having today. I hope that everyone is relaxing and enjoying their Monday. I know most people probably had to go back to work today. With all the extra services last week, I am happy to have today and tomorrow to myself. All right, John 2, starting with verse 13. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip of cords and drove them all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold the doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my father's house into a market." His disciples remarked that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to us to do this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it up again in 3 days." They replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you're going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple that he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words of Jesus that had been spoken. Now, while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover festival, many people saw the signs he was performing and believed in his name. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all people. He did not need any testimony about mankind, for he knew what was in each person. May God add his blessing to the reading and hearing of his word. Sorry. So, what is Jesus up to? Jesus has just come from the wedding. Well, the last time we saw him, he was at the wedding having a good time, turning water into wine. First miracle to keep the party going. And now he's in Jerusalem, ready to celebrate the Passover, the high holy holiday for Jews. And he is going to worship. He's going to the temple. He's going to their version of church. He's going to his father's house to be about his father's business. Um, that he's with his disciples, and his disciples would have been Jewish as well, and the urge and demand and draw to Jerusalem would have been strong for all of them. I do find it interesting and wonder often why the contrast between the levity of a wedding and the anger of the temple back to back like that. I don't know. I think John is really good at showing both the humanity and the divinity of Jesus. And so in both those stories, we see both really human things and really divine things. I often have read this and wondered, what the heck do the disciples think while it's happening? We know what they thought after his death when it was written. John tells us that they remembered and believed, but what they think while it was happening. I mean, Jesus marches into the temple courts and sees something that angers him to the point of making a whip and driving out cattle and sheep, then flipping over tables and so on and so forth. The verse of today that I want to look at, and probably I want to look at it because it's the day after Easter. The verse of the day is John 2:19. Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days." Jesus already knew. Jesus knew from the time of his second appearance in John, public appearance in John, uh, that he would be, you know, betrayed, crucified, died, buried, and he knew that he'd rise again in 3 days. And I think that that's really important to know, that even though he knew, he was going to do it anyway. And that is pretty amazing. This is another one of my favorite passages. I love all of John, but this one is particularly funny to me. But why do I like it? Now, I'm ornery about a lot of things, and this is one of the things that I am probably too ornery about when it comes to the enjoying of scripture and why I enjoy it. So, back in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, everybody's wearing these bracelets that said WWJD. What would Jesus do? And my answer to that was, always remember that flipping over tables is in the realm of possibility. He was mad. He was angry. He was so angry to see his father's temple like this. He was so angry to see people misusing the money exchange system to try to get ahead, instead of letting people purchase things for sacrifice, which was required for Passover, at a fair price, that he was literally flipping over tables and making whips. And so when it was popular to say, what would Jesus do, that was one of the funniest things that I chose to say, in my own opinion. I mean, I understand that it's a, a little or a lot tongue-in-cheek, but it is still true. Like, flipping over tables is in the realm of possibility. But that does make me ask the question, have you ever been angry for the right reason? Like, we get angry for the wrong reason a lot of the time. But have you ever had righteous indignation, righteous anger that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt is correct to have? I mean, Jesus was right to be angry. They were making the temple courts into a house of thieves, and that was worthy of being mad about. If you've had righteous anger, what did you do with it? Where'd you place it? How did you deal with it? Or did you just let it simmer and fizzle? So, my righteous anger most of the time is about the treatment of children. I think that the United States is terrible. Uh, and our mistreatment of children is ridiculous. I also feel righteous indignation about how women are treated in the church. And that's not specific to any denomination. I think that misogyny is still alive and well. I think sexual abuse is still happening all the time. And I work pretty diligently to fight against both those things. What can we learn from Jesus' anger? I think that the first thing we can learn is it's okay to be angry. What we do with it then is the question. It was okay for Jesus to be mad about this. It was okay for Jesus to flip tables. It was okay for Jesus to drive out the cattle and sheep. It was okay to talk to the people who were exchanging money. It was okay to call them thieves, because his anger came from the correct place. Apparently, we're going to have a short little devotion this morning, because we're not even 10 minutes in, and I'm ready to wrap it up. I'm in vacation mode, everybody. Lectio Divina, John 2, 12 through 25, and give John 3, 1 through 21 a look, because that is what we will be working on next. We're going to get to the verse that everybody knows next week. So give it some thought, and we will be back next week for another little Bible study.